Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I think one of the reasons that the events of last year, like MH17 and the Sydney siege, affected us so much is because we could all imagine ourselves on that plane or in that cafe. A lot of terrible things happen every day, here and overseas, but most of the time we imagine that it could never happen to us. But not this. This was different. A lot of us have been overseas on an aeroplane. Even more of us get a cup of coffee in the morning on our way to work as part of our normal daily routine. I was in the Lindt Cafe only a couple of days before the siege. My wife goes there all the time. Like most Australians, on the 15th of December I was transfixed to the TV screen all day and all through the night. And I sat there thinking about the people in the cafe, just going about their normal routine, until suddenly they were caught up in what could only be described as anyone's worst nightmare. And I thought about their mums and their dads. I thought about their husbands and their wives receiving a phone call, or as it turns out, a text message telling them that their loved ones were in there. And they are still in our thoughts. And it was wonderful, Mr Deputy Speaker, to see them in the gallery yesterday. However, there were two people that weren't in the gallery yesterday, Tory Johnson and Katrina Dawson, victims of a sick and evil person and a warped, demented ideology. I rang a mate of mine who is a barrister in Selborne Chambers, and I asked him if he knew Katrina. He did. He worked on the same floor as Katrina, and they'd been friends for 10 years. The day before, Sunday, they were both in their chambers working on different cases, and Katrina had brought her kids into the office, and they were there laughing and joking, and they were talking about what they were going to do for Christmas. He told me she was just lovely. Because of the actions of a madman, this beautiful, bright, lovely person is gone forever. It's so unfair and so wrong. The same's true of Tory Johnson. And for those that survived, well, they carry the physical and the mental scars with them of those 16 or so hours, and will continue to do so for the rest of their lives. Later this month, the Prime Minister has promised to release a review by federal agencies into this tragedy. It's an important document. 2 people died, and more could have. It's important that we ask the hard questions and look at what we need to do differently to try to stop something like this happening again. That's not an easy thing. But we owe it to the people that were in the gallery yesterday, and we owe it to Katrina and Tory to try to do that. And that includes looking at how we use intelligence to monitor deranged and fixated individuals, like Man Monis, and looking at the role of the TAG East team, the 2nd Commando Tactical Assault Group based at Holsworthy, and what role they should play in situations like this, given their extraordinary capabilities. Finally, I just want to say something about the community response in the aftermath of this terrible tragedy. I expected, I think many people expected, the sort of backlash against the Muslim community that we saw in September last year after the police raids, where people were spat on, where people were pushed and abused. But that didn't happen. We saw something very different in December. A Muslim friend of mine who visited the makeshift memorial flooded with flowers on several occasions told me about one of those visits, and he was crying. And a woman came up to him, Anglo-Celtic woman, and she put her arm around him and she said, "Are you okay?" And as tears rolled down his face, she gave him a hug. And this mate of mine, this Muslim mate of mine, said that he never felt like he belonged as much as he did on that moment. And I think there's a very special message for us in that. What's happening in Iraq and what's happening in Syria is a lightning rod for deluded people who want to go there and fight, or want to wreak terrible damage here at home. People poisoned by a putrid ideology, triggered into action by what they see on TV, what they read on their phone or their tablet or the computer at home, or what they hear in a prayer hall. Ottawa, Paris, Sydney, they're all evidence of that. But if the purpose on that day was to divide us, then it failed. It's only brought us closer together. It's only helped my mate to feel like he belongs. And that's a message that we should all take with us, a message of hope in the midst of all this violence and pain.